Welcome to our bush care training aid on mixing herbicide. Most of you probably will have already done some chemical training with your bush care officer by now, and as you all know, the only herbicide we do mix is glyphosate. Today it's Roundup. What you will find with glyphosate is a relatively safe herbicide to use, but of course there are some precautions that we do need to take. Now if you're not familiar with mixing Roundup, or you just need a little bit of a brush up on your knowledge, best thing to do is turn the bottle around and have a look at the label that's on the back. This label does fold out on a lot of our bottles, and it will give you directions on how to mix that chemical for each application. It'll also give you safety directions and first aid directions if you do happen to have an accident. Now the other great thing that we should always look at is having a nice safe sturdy place to mix up our chemicals so that we can get things organised and do it in a safe way. And then the next step is to put on your PPE, your personal protective equipment. So we start off with our safety glasses with bush care. Most important you've got them on so you don't get chemical in your eyes. And the next thing is our gauntlet gloves, because we are working with concentrated chemical, just to make sure we don't get it on our skin, because it can be absorbed straight through our skin. Now next step of course is to make sure you've got everything you need, and today we're going to be mixing up the small squirt bottle. These squirt bottles do come in two sizes. Most important that you have a label on your squirt bottle to make sure that people do know what's inside that bottle. And the other thing of course is we've got a beaker for mixing up our chemical itself and getting that into the bottle, and also some water for diluting it. So first things first, this is quite a full bottle today. Lid off, pop it somewhere safe, and it's much easier to pour these bigger bottles on their side. So know how much chemical you need to mix up. We know for a squirt bottle it's usually for a scrape and paint application, so we're going for a 50-50 mix. The only exception to this would be for ochre and any of those harder to kill woody weeds where you need a slightly stronger mix, where we can mix it up to 90 to 10, so that's 90% Roundup to 10% water. So today we know we've got a 100ml bottle, so we're going to come off to the side, pour the chemical from the side. It's a little bit easier to control, and we're aiming for 50ml. Okay, so now that is back in the beaker, we'll pop the lid back on just in case we knock it over. And the next step of course is to pour that into the bottle in this case. Now if you were mixing up a spray bottle, we'd be putting this in last. Stops all the foaming up, but we'll show you how to do that in just a moment. So chemical is okay. Next step is to add our water. You can do this by eye with our bottles. You'll actually notice that when we look at the side of the bottle, you can see roughly where it is. Being a 50-50 mix, it's the only time you would actually do it by eye, so we can bring that up the last step. Okay, and the last thing we need to do is pop the lid back on. Now one of the things about these bottles, especially if you've got a new one, sometimes they don't have a hole in the top already, so it's just simply a matter, now that it's closed we can take our gloves off, but taking your secateurs, good sharp pair, and snipping the very end off. Check the size of your hole. If you haven't got one already you may need to just take a little bit more off. Okay, good size hole there now. And the last thing is popping the cap back on the lid so that we can't spill it. So these do need to be pushed down firmly, good click, and you know you're all secure with your chemical and it's ready to go.
Welcome to the Bush Care Training Aid video. Today we're going to be using the cut and paint method. Depending on the size of your weed you can use different tools. The secateurs are great for small ones, and today I'm going to be using the handsaw on this weed. We're also going to be using the buddy method. Once I cut, the buddy will then apply the herbicide quickly to increase its effectiveness. But before we get started, we're going to be wearing our PPE. Glasses are good to stop any scratching, and gloves are great so you don't cut yourself. For safety reasons we're going to cut it nice and low, and then the buddy is going to come quickly after the cut and apply the herbicide.
Important to get it onto the living tissue on the outer edge, and just let that soak in. That's done.
And that's the cut and paint method.
Okay, today we're here to show you how to do the scrape and paint method on a woody weed. So I have the tools of choice to do the scraping.
And I've got the herbicide.
Very good painting. So first up we'll start with doing the scrape, and Mike will follow up with doing the paint. Anyway. Okay, so we'll make the first scrape here. So make sure you get down to the green, the cambium layer. But you don't want to dig it right down to the woody area.
And I'll put the herbicide on quickly.
And that's all you need.